guys with taking care of all of the visual footage. So something that someone snapped a picture of Chris at the gathering for this weekend, and I need to edit this image into a black and white photo exposed correctly, and then I also need to take this all the way through into Photoshop and generate our podcast images for the weekend. So wanted to run you through the whole process of kind of how this works. Here it is, and I'm going to load it into Lightroom, so I'm just dragging it onto Lightroom. Usually I'll find the one image that I want from that weekend and then drag it on just for a reference kind of forward into the future. Here's like where I'm trying to get it to. So I want it to be just a really high contrast black and white image, something that looks clean, sharp. Primarily we're only using the speaker portion of it, so really this is all that matters. Sometimes I'll think about things that are in the shot if there's like a stand coming out of his shoulder or something like that, but we try and work pretty hard to make sure that the shot's clean every week, and generally it's pretty good. This is a great example of it, actually. This shot was, as you can see here, a bit underexposed, but Lightroom's pretty powerful and can handle a lot of different stuff, so we ended up being okay on this one. But I'll show you guys how it works. So usually what I do is, because I have other stuff in here as well, if I click on just the week prior, I'm copying and just copy into it, and then I'm going to paste into this slot. So as I paste into that, I can already tell that's pretty underexposed. I'm pushing it pretty hard right now, but I'm going to come up on my exposure a bit, and then I'm going to bring some of the clarity back down. Maybe it's a little overdone. Some of that sharpness looks good. Let a little bit more of the highlights through. What I'm looking for is just not anything that's like blown out, but I just want it to be sharp. I want it to look really high contrast. I'm okay with the full blacks. I want to be careful of the full whites, but I want the photo to feel dynamic. So something that I'm thinking about, if I was to take these shadows out all the way, for instance, you kind of lose the dynamic range in the skin. You're gaining a little bit back in his clothing, but that's really not the focus of it. We just want people to be able to connect with it. So I'm coming right about there. I feel pretty comfortable. So here's the one I did earlier, and then here's the one I did now. I actually kind of like the one I did now more. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go up to File and Export. And within this screen, I'm usually fine with just exporting the same folder as original photo, which in this instance is the desktop, and then I'll just drag the photo to wherever I need to get to. I just want to export a JPEG. You can create a preset for this. It's pretty simple though. For the most part, we're just looking at this image sizing section, so we don't need to resize to fit it. This image is probably 5,000 pixels or something like that, but I do down the resolution a bit, just a screen resolution of 72, and what this allows for is just easier file size to deal with. I'm not way up in the high file range. I've already got one, so let's just use a unique name just for good measure, and we're going to see that guy come through in any second here. So there it is, right there. So now that I've got my image, it is probably, let's see how many pixels it is, but it's 7.1 megs, and I don't know how many pixels, but it's plenty. So what I'm going to do is just drag this. I've already got my Photoshop document open with the teaching images, so all of these documents have a YouTube image artboard and a teaching image artboard. So as I go back here, drag that on, and once that guy gets placed, so now I've got it in there, and just to kind of show you through how this document works, let's turn this off for a second. Place that guy. So just to show you how this document works, it's set up obviously in two different artboards. So we've got the teaching image and the YouTube image, and I usually just lay the next one right over the top of the previous week, and then I'll delete the photo out from underneath it. So all it's doing is essentially clipping mask with a teaching image here, and all of these are identical on YouTube. So what's great is it really brands out our videos, brings the series artwork through into other stuff, but On YouTube, the vertical justification on it is really easy, so all this is just centered because you've got a little YouTube play button right here once it all populates. And then on our website, there's a couple different areas. So let's just take a look over there really quick, actually. So if we go to the site, we've got two possible areas that this all gets populated in. And so as we look in this, you'll see that there's two different kinds of plugins on the site once this thing loads up. So I've got one here, and this is an overlay function. So this is that same image that I was just dealing with. And then I've got this one here. So as you can see, there's kind of two different, this one hits him just under the belt buckle, whereas this one's a little bit lower. And so I've kind of got that plotted in here. When I do the artwork, this is all spaced out, and so what I'm always trying to do on a weekly basis is make sure that this person is in the same exact position every week. So when you see it on our YouTube channel or you see it on the website, everything comes out with the speaker at the same size. That's the goal. We don't want somebody to be huge and someone to be tiny. We just want to create as much visual balance as possible. So I've actually got pre-rendered kind of samples of those pieces in there so you can see what they look like. I just went ahead and recreated them, but we don't use them obviously on the export, but just if you need to toggle it and just see what that looks like, it's just inside of this samples one inside of teaching FI. So alright, back to business. We've got this in, and I'm just going to drag it right into the line on this stuff and show it. This layer right here, just so you know too, is just a shadow layer just to kind of give it a little bit more separation. So once I've got my image, I'm going to drag it around, and I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So once I kind of think I'm maybe somewhere in the ballpark, that's probably getting pretty close. I'm going to hit enter, make sure that's placed. And what I actually end up doing usually is I turn my opacity down so that I can see the other speaker behind them. And then I just play the matchup game. So once I've got it in place, that seems to be pretty good, and then I'm just going to drag this guy up to that one, which is on the teaching image. So here he is on the other side now. And they're usually about the same size. The teaching image zooms in on the speaker just a little bit more, and then I'm just going to click on those two layers and bring the opacity back up to 100%. If I want to help my layer size, these images beneath him are of no use anymore, so I can delete those. And so I'm just going to check over all my stuff, everything looks good, and then I'll select both of my layer, these are the artboard layers, so I'll just select both of those, and I click export as. So once I'm in this section, I will usually hit this with a suffix, and I already exported, just did it a few minutes ago out of this file, so I've already got it in there, but if you do just an underscore and then the year and then the underscore and the date stamp, it'll allow you to have just a little bit more tracking on these images, so it's not just every single one of these is named teaching image or YouTube image. And then I always take the teaching image down to 60%. The YouTube image doesn't matter too much because YouTube will compress this anyways, whereas the teaching image, if I take it down a little bit, get it somewhere around 300, that's like usually my goal. So then I select both of those and hit export all. So once I've got that, I'm placing this in the library on this computer that it needs to be in. So going through weekly visuals, this was February 26th, and I've already exported them, so I'm not going to do it right now, but that's where I'd put them, and then each of those places goes to its respective area on the website, and that's how you get the image through.